Yesterday, something happened inside the U.S. Supreme Court chamber that no one alive has ever seen before, not in person, not on C-SPAN, not in the entire history of the American judiciary. Chief Justice John Roberts, the man whose name has long been synonymous with calm, institutional dignity and judicial restraint, stood up in a rage and screamed, yes, screamed, at a sitting member of Congress. And not just any member. He screamed at Jasmine Crockett, a 43-year-old black freshman congresswoman from Texas, who responded with nothing but poise, legal precision, and a calm that shattered the internet in less than 30 seconds. It was supposed to be a routine congressional hearing, but what unfolded inside that vaulted chamber was anything but routine. What began as a tense but civil exchange quickly spiraled into a jaw-dropping confrontation. A moment that cracked the polished veneer of the Supreme Court, exposed the raw nerve of unchecked judicial power, and elevated Crockett from promising freshman to political titan in the span of one hearing. By the time it was over, #JasmineClapback was trending in 64 countries, and Roberts, the architect of some of the most controversial rulings in modern history, was left speechless, humiliated, and visibly shaken. But here's the thing no one expected. Jasmine Crockett didn't raise her voice. She didn't interrupt. She didn't even break eye contact. She simply asked the questions millions of Americans have wanted to ask for years, and refused to accept evasion, elitism, or condescension as answers. This wasn't just a political moment. It was a generational reckoning. It was a young black woman looking the most powerful legal figure in America straight in the eye and saying, "You don't get to scream at me. You don't get to erase the harm you've caused. And you don't get to hide behind robes and titles anymore." Let's back up. For decades, John Roberts has carefully curated an image of judicial balance. With his silver hair, his Harvard pedigree, and his unshakable tone, he was seen as the last adult in the room, a calming force on a court increasingly mired in partisanship. But that image has cracked. Behind it, many see a man who's presided over the erosion of voting rights, the flood of dark money into elections, and now, the stripping away of reproductive rights for vulnerable minors. And Jasmine Crockett? She's everything the old guard fears. Young, black, female, outspoken, a former criminal defense attorney who built her career fighting for those crushed by the system Roberts has helped shape. She didn't come to the Supreme Court to posture. She came to ask why a 14-year-old rape victim in Texas should be forced to carry her pregnancy to term because of a decision John Roberts helped write. She came to ask why judges with lifetime appointments don't have to answer for the real-world pain they cause. And she came with facts, lived experience, and an unshakable calm that made Roberts' fury look not just inappropriate, but unhinged. What happened next wasn't just Roberts losing his temper. It was a power structure unraveling in real time. So if you're ready to witness the exact moment when Jasmine Crockett broke the mold of American politics, and why millions now see her as the future of leadership, don't blink. Because what she said next didn't just silence a Supreme Court justice. It changed the way an entire nation thinks about power, respect, and who truly belongs in the halls of justice. Let's get into it. The Supreme Court chamber was packed, reporters, staffers, legal scholars, even a few stunned law students lucky enough to get a seat. You could feel the tension vibrating through the marble columns. Something rare was happening. Something historic. The hearing had been convened to discuss the court's recent ruling on reproductive rights for minors. A decision that effectively left young girls, some as young as 12, at the mercy of their state governments. No exceptions for rape. No exceptions for incest. No federal safety net. Just cold legal language written in ink that left real children trapped in nightmares. And then Chief Justice John Roberts did something unprecedented. He walked into the hearing room uninvited, unannounced, flanked by clerks and cameras, declaring he had to defend the court's integrity. Chairman Jim Jordan granted him a seat at the witness table. Most expected deference. Jasmine Crockett gave none. From the moment she took her seat, dressed in a burgundy blazer that radiated confidence, she locked eyes with the most powerful judge in the land. Her voice calm, her questions sharp, her focus unshakable. "Chief Justice," she began, "when your rulings align perfectly with the most extreme elements of one political party, on voting rights, on reproductive care, on corporate power, do you ever wonder if your interpretation of the Constitution has become indistinguishable from a partisan agenda?" Roberts stiffened. "Congresswoman," he said, measured, "this court interprets the law based on constitutional text and precedent, not the political winds of the moment." Crockett leaned in. And yet the political winds keep blowing in the same direction, against the vulnerable, against the voiceless, against the very people you claim the Constitution protects. Gasps. Cameras clicked. Even Republicans shifted in their seats. Roberts pressed on, trying to reclaim control. I would caution you, Congresswoman, not to impugn the motives of this court. We are not subject to political review. Crockett didn't flinch. Then let's talk about real consequences. Imagine a 14-year-old girl raped by a family member in rural Texas. Under your decision, if her state refuses to provide exceptions, she must carry that child. Can you explain to the American people how that reflects justice? Roberts' composure cracked, just slightly. That's a mischaracterization of our ruling. Is it? Crockett asked, not breaking her stare. Because that's what's happening. Today. Right now. Your ruling made that possible. And I'd like to know how you justify that to the people who live with the consequences. The Chief Justice's jaw tensed. His tone sharpened. With all due respect, you lack the legal background to understand the full scope of constitutional analysis. And that's when it happened. Crockett smiled. Not kindly. Not smugly. Just enough to signal what was coming. I practiced law for over a decade, Chief Justice. In actual courtrooms. With actual clients. Facing actual injustice. How many trials have you personally conducted? The room fell silent. Robert's lips parted. No answer. Exactly, she said. So let's not pretend that a Harvard degree gives you more credibility than lived experience. Roberts was now visibly rattled. His face flushed. His breathing heavier. But Crockett wasn't done. You have 2 adopted daughters, correct? She asked. Roberts bristled. That's not relevant. It is when you make rulings that affect every daughter in this country, Crockett replied. So I'll ask again, if your own child were in that 14-year-old girl's shoes, what would you want the law to do? That was the moment. Roberts broke. He stood up, red-faced, shouting, You are out of line. You are a disgrace to this institution. The room exploded in chaos. But through it all, Jasmine Crockett didn't move. She just folded her hands. And waited. Because she knew something Roberts had just forgotten. In a democracy, no one is above questioning. Not even the Chief Justice of the United States. As the final words echoed through the Supreme Court chamber, silence returned. But it wasn't calm. It was seismic. Chief Justice Roberts had collapsed back into his chair, his reputation in tatters. His outburst, once unthinkable, now played on every screen in America. But Jasmine Crockett? She simply gathered her notes, stood, and walked out, not with fanfare but with purpose. Outside, reporters swarmed. Her name was already trending. Her words had become rallying cries. Someone like me? That phrase, meant to belittle, was now stitched into banners, tweeted with fire, and engraved in the public consciousness. What had begun as just another oversight hearing had morphed into something historic. Crockett hadn't just held her ground. She redefined what standing your ground meant in American democracy. She didn't scream. She didn't fold. She wielded truth like a scalpel, and in doing so exposed a truth many were afraid to say out loud. Authority unchecked is not justice. Across America, people watched not just a confrontation, but a transformation. A new voice had risen, not to disrupt for spectacle, but to demand integrity from institutions that had long gone unchallenged. And as the dust settled, one thing became clear. Chief Justice Roberts had walked into that room expecting submission. What he got instead was a reckoning delivered not by shouts, but by strength. Not with disrespect, but with reality. And not from someone beneath him, but from someone who reminded us all that true authority must always answer to the people. That day, Jasmine Crockett didn't just defend the Constitution. She reminded America who it belongs to.